We got 10 on the books. This strong group right here.
Really?
They can just have it. They don't take a handful.
What about you? Everything good? We're good. I think it's all worked out. You're gonna, with 100%, I think we're gonna get that close. And we're still working on the railing, feeding. It worked out good. So thanks for your help on that. Appreciate it. Yeah. All right.
Coming Saturday? Different language, right?
That's not the story.
No, it's the story.
I can look at you.
I guess someone will find out. I just want to take my paper coming back. Then is it okay to allow it to go? Every season, give us a hotel. He just said it. So, I get to next day, everybody got. So they found the spot.
I had my cousin and her husband.
I've done the Vegas show and variety show. It's really what I'm wishing to go to. Where's my phone? One did and that. Well, we got a show at Summer Field. We got a show ticket. So we went both tonight. And the guy that gave us the dinner tickets to the show. He gave us the show. Then it was great. Upgraded.
Me too. I know. I just have my
We're in the mall, past my hotel, and this guy stopped with me, and I could go get representation. And he gave us coupons to buy one. $85 and then 2 tickets. Well, we had to take this show.
Good evening. It is the Dania Beach City Commission regular meeting. It is Tuesday, May 28, 2019 at 7 o'clock p.m. Can you please call the roll?
Mayor Llewellyn.
Here.
Vice Mayor Odman.
Here.
Commissioner Brandemart.
Here.
Commissioner Harris.
Here.
Commissioner James.
Here.
City Manager Garcia.
Here.
City Attorney Ansborough.
Here.
Thank you.
Can you please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? And would you please also, we'd like to observe a moment of silence. Thank you. Next item is presentations and special event approvals. The first item is a presentation by Michael Carey from Kimley Horn on the rehabilitation of the north runway of Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport.
Joe, can you assist, please? Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Mike Carey. I'm with Kimley Horn Associates. And tonight with the county, we have Mark Gambrell, Chief Development Officer, and also Gasser Duget, who is our project manager. What we wanted to do is just to take a few minutes and brief you on our project that will be starting here soon, the north runway rehabilitation, the thought process, the schedule, and why are we doing that, why are we doing it now. So a little public information for you. So just to kind of give you tee up a little factoids about the airport. As I think everybody here knows, the airport is booming. It's a reflection of the economy. A lot of people are traveling. The port's busy. The airport last year in 2018, there were 35.9 million passengers passed through the airport, which was a 10.6% growth year over year. For those of you that follow that kind of thing, usually see 2, 3, 4% growth in airports. So 10% growth at an airport is really staggering. Fort Lauderdale has now passed Philadelphia, as well as LaGuardia in traffic and passengers, which is quite a milestone. Fort Lauderdale is now one of the 20 busiest airports in the U.S. Last year alone, 21 new destinations or markets were extended. I think if you go by the airport and if you're a plane watcher like I am, you'll see British Airways and Azul and some of the other airlines that you never saw before that used to fly into Miami or still do fly into Miami, but they're now flying into Fort Lauderdale. But Fort Lauderdale really developed its growth through the low-cost carriers. JetBlue, Southwest, and Spirit are 65% of the traffic at Fort Lauderdale. So, as most everybody knows, today we have 2 runways at the airport. We have the brand new runway, the South Runway, which was opened in 2016. And we have the North Runway 10 left, 28 right, which is the one we were going to be working on for this project. There used to be a third crosswind runway, but that was decommissioned several years ago to make way for the South Runway. So the North Runway, the one we're going to be working on, is in the original alignment that the military developed back in 1942. The runway has been extended, strengthened, rehabbed, improved multiple times over the years by various contractors, engineers, planners, FAA design guidelines, specifications, and that sort of thing. So basically we've got to the point that the runway really does need some work for various reasons. And so we've been in the planning and programming and design mode for probably better part of 5 years for this project. It's been 15 years since there's been any last major work on the airport. If you remember, we did this back in 2004, more or less. It was a mill and overlay. And the reason we're doing it now is that, for multiple reasons, but this runway was the only active runway for 18 months while the South Runway was developed. The runway needs structural, drainage, safety, lighting, and signage upgrades. The FAA advisory circulars and design guidelines have changed over the years, so there's a lot of improvements that we need to make improvements for this project. And the design that we've selected, hopefully, will get us out of the 15-year cycle. The runway itself is made out of asphalt. We're going to convert portions of that to concrete, which is a more durable product. It's more expensive, but we're going to convert it to concrete and hopefully increase the cycle between major rehabilitations to 30 years instead of 15, for a variety of reasons. So the benefits of the project are we're going to decrease the cycles, the runway safety enhancements. For those of you familiar with the airport and the runway, at both ends of the runway we have engineered material arresting systems at both ends, or EMAS systems. They're basically just styrofoam blocks in case aircraft overrun or underrun the runway. Those are 15 years old. They're very expensive, and we are going to replace those as part of the project as well. We're going to revise the runway geometry connecting points from the taxiways so that we reduce incursions. And we're going to just generally improve the lighting and signage of the runway. We're going to LED lighting as an example. And then finally, we're going to improve the drainage there. The airport gets dinged on a regular basis from the FAA for standing water around the airport. And we're also going to raise the center line of the runway about 6 inches, depending on what future sea level rise brings. Okay, so here's the project. The runway is there in yellow along the center line. We're going to be improving both Taxiway Alpha, which is on the north side, and Taxiway Bravo on the south side, and all the connecting points there. You can see the old crosswind runway elements. We're going to try to get rid of most of those as far as the project as well. Here's a cross section of the runway. You can see there in the center. We're going to cut out all the old asphalt and we're going to put in a concrete keel section. That should improve the overall rideability, the cross slope, and the life of the runway, so hopefully we won't be standing here in front of you in the next 10 to 15 years doing it again. It's more expensive. It takes a little longer to do, but in the end we think it's a very good idea. We went through, I think, 8 different options of what to do. And the South Runway is built out of concrete, so that was one of the factors associated as well. So overall phasing, the project has started. We gave the contractor a notice to proceed back in March. He started in our Phase 2, which was the taxiway alpha work in purple. The runway will be closed on June the 3rd at 12:01 for 120 days, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We have incentives for early completion, and we also have damages, very heavy damages for a late finish. Through the design of the project, we looked at variable lengths of construction time because we do know that will impact not only the airlines but the citizens and residents around the airport. We settled on 150, and through further evaluation got it down to 120 calendar days. The contractor has submitted schedules to have the runway open in 100 days. He wants the bonus. The bonus is $75,000 a day. So he's shooting for the $1.5 million bonus for the project. So we're optimistic. We're at least glad that he is optimistic that he can get it done in the allotted time. And we think he probably can do that. So, as I mentioned, we awarded the project back in February. We've started the work, and we will again begin the work on June the 3rd. The contractor schedule shows a completion on September the 11th, our runway reopening. He has the 120 days, which will actually show about an end of September completion. We have other work to do, so that work will go on into March of next year. But the runway will be reopened back up. So here's just a picture of the beginning of the project, the Phase 2. It's pretty boring if you're not an engineer or a contractor, but you can see we've been out there since middle of March, or late March, beginning paving and setting up new geometry for our new connecting taxiways for the project. So in summary, the project cost, if anybody wants to know, is $64 million. Funded partially by FAA and FDOT funds as well as county funds. 4 months of runway closure hopefully will cut that down. And it's been locally planned, designed, and constructed with folks here in Broward County. As I said, we've been at this for about 5 years as far as the planning. We've been meeting with the airlines for about 8 months now. They're fully aware of everything that we're doing. They've signed off on our phasing, our construction length, the project costs, all of those kind of things. And we have local contractors doing the work. I think the only non-local contractor is the paving contractor who does airport-only concrete paving. So with that, we can answer any questions you may have. There's going to be a website set up. There's a noise hotline, and then Mark and Gas are here if anybody has any specific questions as well.
Vice Mayor.
With the difference between the asphalt and the concrete, is there any difference in the sound?
Difference in sound? I don't think so. I think it would be marginal. It's aircraft noise. It's not going to be really the pavement that it rides on.
Okay, no difference. Thank you.
Commissioner Brandon Marty.
You say no difference. Did you already test this somewhere?
There's both. No, ma'am. I mean, I don't think.
So you really don't know that answer, right?
I don't know that answer.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you something, okay?
Okay.
The only thing that would bring this amount of people into this room again is if there was a difference, and I'll tell you why. I lived next door to her. For 1 decibel or 2, she got money for noise mitigation. I didn't. That 1 decibel or 2 might make the difference as to whether I should come back to you again and say, look, now I meet that. What are you going to do about it? No thinking. Fast answer.
All I can tell you from an engineering perspective, there is no difference in asphalt and concrete as far as aircraft traveling on it. Okay.
Well, let me tell you something. I'm not happy with that answer.
Okay.
Because of what the reason I gave, and I wish. Did you bring anybody else with you?
Yes, I did, but I don't know that they can answer the question. But they
can't answer that question either. Well, I don't, no more.
I have a couple of questions for you.
Wait a minute, I'm not finished. I can't help this. When I get on something, sir, I'm known not to let it go. It's sort of like a pit bull. All right, I want you to come back with an answer.
Okay.
To satisfy my residents that live out there. They have a right to know whether there's going to be a difference. We have paid so much money for noise mitigation attorneys. I want to know, I know your money's, but I want to know now what it means for those residents out there, especially out at Malaluka and more west than there. You have to come back with an answer, or I'm not, is this a voting issue? No. All right, good. But anyway, I want an answer. Please bring it back. That's my opinion. I don't know how you all feel about it.
I have questions.
Oh, all right. Thank you.
I have some questions for you also, and Mr. Gambrell might be able to answer them as well. First of all, I am glad to hear that you have significant incentives to get the work done faster.
Yes.
So that it takes less time, and that there are also damages, potential damages if they don't get done on time.
Correct.
What are those damages? What are the fines?
$150,000 a day,
Per day,
per day,
beyond the 120?
beyond the 120.
Okay. You mentioned about raising the runway to help with the drainage issues?
Yes, well, there's multiple reasons, but that's the primary reason.
Okay. By doing that, is that potentially going to impact other surrounding areas as far as drainage is concerned? I see him shaking his head.
No, no.
Okay.
No, what's happened, in layman's terms, is the runway's been beat to death for all these years, so it doesn't have the crown and the cross slope that it needs to have. And
Okay.
so in order to do that, reestablish it, we're not rebuilding the whole thing, we're just doing the center 75 feet. So we raised it in order to recreate the cross slope needed.
Okay, to basically even it out?
It's
Or
actually
no?
on a pitch, so that it's like a road, it drains off to the side.
Okay. Is there anything that you all are doing or working with the airlines in any way in order to help mitigate the amount of noise that's going to impact the homes surrounding the airport? Because now you're going from having 2 runways that are open to having 1. And there are thousands of homes that those planes land over every day. I am one of them, as a matter of fact. And that's going to increase. Not everybody does have the sound mitigation because they didn't all qualify for it. So my concern is that, have you looked into addressing flight patterns, things like that, in order to try to mitigate the number of flights that are actually going to come directly over the homes in that area?
I can tell you that the airlines have been asked to cut back on the number of flights during the period just because of the capacity issues and delays associated with that. I don't know if what their commitment has been, but there has been conversations about that with the airlines.
Has there been any discussion about potential penalties that can occur if they don't try to mitigate this in some way?
I'm not aware of that.
Okay, is that something that you could do?
We could find out. Oh,
Try to negotiate
Oh,
with
I
them.
don't know. I don't know, but we could find out.
I mean, I'm sure there's somebody that couldn't try to negotiate with them to try to mitigate this as much as possible, because it's going to disrupt thousands of people
We understand.
for 3, 4, 5 months, potentially. So
And what we can say is that we've looked at this very, very closely and tried our best to design a project that we could do as quickly as possible that would have the minimum amount of time impact to the residents and give us a long-term solution, because we don't want to be back in 15 years.
is there somebody that the residents can contact, other than Winston? I know everybody knows Winston that lives in that area, and they contact him regularly when there is a problem with the noise. Is there anybody else that may be available that they can also contact? Because I'm sure he can only take so many emails and phone calls and texts and whatnot. Is there somebody else available that we can address these questions with?
I mean, it would be myself, Mark Gambrell, and then also
You
Monica.
gotta come up.
Hi, name is Mark Gambrell, Chief Development Officer. Would be myself and also Monica Capilouto. We've been working on a noise mitigation program. The one thing I like to do, if you don't mind, give you a little update on the existing noise mitigation program. When I came here about 1.5 years ago to this commission to give you an update, at the time we had about 600 homes completed and about 50 closings. Since then, at this time, we've got about 1,027 homes that are mitigated. There's 30 homes that right now are substantially completed. We have another 57 right now in construction, and we're left with about 110 homes. By end of July, they should be all completed in terms of the RSI. In terms of the conveyance and release program, we had 639 homeowners that are in that program at the time. We've completed 504 closings. We have 135 more closings, and I believe in the next 2 or 3 weeks have 10 scheduled. And then the balance right now are in the process with our county attorney, meeting with, we're working with the city, looking at liens and all that. So the goal is to get those closings completed. So that's where we are with the existing noise mitigation program.
Well, what I'm hearing from that, though, is also that means that there's about 200 homes that have not been mitigated and will not be completed until likely by July.
There'll be 86 on June 3rd, and we've already contacted all the homeowners. We've already, I have a full list of, we've scheduled the June 3rd, we have 11 home starts. June 10th, 9. June 17th, we have 9. June 24th, 14. July 1st, 13 home starts. July 8th, 8. 15, July 15th would be 6. July 22nd, 6, and July 29th, 6, which gives you 82 homeowners, and that's the balance that will be completed.
Right,
but we're working hard to
And I understand that, but those all take time to do. I mean, they
Absolutely.
take, it's not like it gets done in a day or two. It takes weeks in some
10
cases.
days.
It takes longer than that in
Yeah.
some cases. I've had
Yeah.
people that have told me it's taken them 40 days. So my concern is that you're going to have people that have not had mitigation that are going to be living with this excessive, it will be excessive, and more than it is now, amount of noise for at least a month or 2, possibly 3.
And what I'll do with that, I'll take note of that because we've been thinking about that, and I will follow up with you on that commitment because there's some things that we've been working on because, again, this is from the previous program, from the South Runway. We want to get this thing done. And again, we fully understand on June 3rd, those 83 homes won't be completed. And our goal is to get it done, and I'll follow up with you on that component.
I'd like you to come back to the meeting again after this has already started and
Yeah.
give us an update as to what's going on, and maybe some of the people here will
Absolutely.
have some information for you as well.
Okay.
Commissioner Brandon Marty? Oh, I had you. Do you have yours on?
I do, actually. Just thinking back in regards to what Commissioner Brandon Mart said and what you had mentioned, Mayor, to mitigate the impact on our residents, particularly now June, July, and August, that the kids are out of school, are you looking at all at the departures and arrivals? I mean, I've flown out of there at 6:30 a.m. and at 7 a.m., and I know how much that's going to impact our residents very, very early in the morning when they're trying to sleep or very, very late at night. So just based on some of the conversations that I've had with our residents, is that something that you could look into or the team could look into in regards to departure and arrivals very, very early and very, very late at night that would really be very impactful in regards to the quality of life of our residents?
There's also going to be overnight flights because the internationals will be going through there as well.
Yeah, yes, we can look into that. We're not prepared to talk about that tonight. That's more of an FAA controls airspace, so we could get some information and bring that back to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yep.
That's it.
Okay.
Very good.
All right.
Okay. Next presentation is Dania Beach Clergy Alliance, Pastor Paul Wiggins, President.
Mayor Llewellyn, Vice Mayor Argument. Do I need to pick it up? All right. Certainly I am, Reverend Paul Wiggins, pastor of the Greater Mount Zion AME Church here in Dania, but I stand tonight as the president of the Dania Beach Clergy Alliance. And I want to say to commissioners and staff and all who are here, I am delighted to stand on behalf of a great group of people. And if it's okay with the commission, I would like for some of my colleagues to join with me as we make this presentation. You can leave my cane here. I'll be all right without my cane. No. Doc, you better get that.
I'll leave it there. Yeah. I'll be all right in about 2 minutes. All right, all right.
Again, thank you for this opportunity to present this outstanding organization. The Alliance is an ecumenical nonprofit organization formed to operate for religious, charitable, and educational activities that fall within the scope of 501c3 of the Internal Revenue Code. And the primary purposes of the Alliance are to heighten the moral and ethical culture of the Dania Beach community, to develop community programs that will aid citizens with socioeconomic and political resources and awareness, to assist in the overall educational development of low to moderate income families in the community by providing educational empowerment in the form of financial and economic events such as workshops, classes, etc. And then to ensure that the youth in the community are empowered through intentional programming and mentorship opportunities. Now, what does all of that mean? It means that the Alliance looks forward to developing partnerships with the City of Dania Beach political and business leaders. It means that the Alliance will engage fully in the growth initiatives planning within the city to ensure that there is equity in investment in all communities and in all people, with a particular focus on the designated CRA redevelopment plan. It means that the Alliance stands in support of the CRA's at-home Dania Beach program with a focus on residential housing development. It means we applaud the recent 14th Avenue groundbreaking and beautification event, which comprised the initial building of 6 new single-family homes, as well as the improvement and beautification of several existing homes. Job well done. It means the Alliance strongly supports and encourages our political leaders to give strong consideration to establishing a business district within the CRA redevelopment plan area with a focus on supporting small and minority-owned businesses. It means that the Alliance strongly encourages our political leaders to give strong consideration to establishing meaningful opportunities, internships, jobs, recreational, and other educational means for our young people in the community. And again, on behalf of my colleagues and the congregations we are privileged to pastor, we thank you for this opportunity and look forward to partnering with and getting in the trenches with all of you. And with that said, on June 8th, the Alliance is sponsoring a Can We Talk community forum, where it's a listening tour where we're inviting residents from the community to come out to the C.W. Thomas Park. Let us hear from you in terms of what you all are expecting as residents, so that we can further develop our agenda for this year and beyond. With that, again, we say thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Commissioner Brandon
Hi there, Pastor.
How you doing? It's so good to see you.
I
missed
know,
you the other
same
day.
here, hon.
You feeling better?
I feel much better.
Good.
Listen, I was wondering, between me and you, do you think they can introduce themselves? Yes. Hello?
If they give me $5, they can own it. No, I'm just kidding.
Pony up. Pony up. The
Absolutely.
only,
Right.
yeah, I
Absolutely.
would love for them to do that.
Absolutely.
Sir, go ahead.
So everybody knows who everybody is.
Good evening, Mayor and Vice Mayor and Board of Commissioners and all of our city leaders. I'm Reverend Gregory Pope from Bethel Baptist Church, right up the streets here, and been here for a while, but now we have again engaged this political and religious dialogue. We started under the tenure of Tamara James, and and unfortunate I wasn't able to be here, but I'm grateful that I'm back, Tamara. God bless you.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, Manager, Clerk. My name is Pastor Ricky. I pass that Bible way, read on 1st and 7th, up under the big tree. Thank you.
I'm Pastor Lucius Hall, Senior Pastor for the Ebenezer Seventh-day Adventist Church here in the great city of Dania Beach.
I'm Assistant Pastor of Ebenezer Seventh-day Adventist Church, and my name is John Boston.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners. It's a plum pleasing pleasure to be here. Certainly I'm not a pastor, but certainly in lieu of the fact that we're absent of a pastor, I'm chairman of the Deacon Board for St. Ruth Missionary Baptist Church, so I'm standing in that stead tonight. And certainly with these pastors of churches here, I want to just say this, and I'm not looking to become a pastor. I have enough on my plate just at the church. But some time ago, and certainly due to no one's sort of being involved with that, but some time ago we had a epiphany, you want to call it that, and that was to bring about the fact of a clergy alliance in this city. And at the time, as a commissioner, I was trying to head start that. So some of these gentlemen were here at that time and was involved with one of the feedings here in the community where free food was given away and so forth. And that was to bring together of these churches. And the reason for that was the fact that all of these pastors here live outside of the community, but I believe maybe, Ricky, you're in the community. We're in the community, only one. And therefore, hey, need to have a voice, and that voice. And President Wiggins said it well, or Pastor Wiggins said it well, and that is that a voice is to reach out within this community, the least, the lost, and the left out, those that are marginal and don't get an opportunity to maybe voice and come before you. And we want to work diligently with you. We believe that that's something that can bring about harmony. And we're not leaving out, and just not the Northwest, we're out west, but also we're looking forward to, and I know he would have said this, and that is to some of the churches on our east side as well to be involved. And so with that said, I'm going to step out of the way. I think most of you know me here, but anyhow, Pastor Sands.
Oh, you didn't give your name, though.
Yes.
I feel like I need a stepping stool. I'm the shortest one among you guys. So.
Yeah, you are.
I'm Bob Sands. I am the pastor out of Community Bible Church, formerly Griffin Road Baptist Church. We're out at Southwest 30th Avenue and Griffin Road. I'm the secretary treasurer, right? Okay, Secretary-Treasurer of the Dania Beach Clergy Alliance. And then Dr. Sean Jarrett is our Vice President. He's unable to be with us tonight for good reason. His son is graduating, so he sends his regards. So I just want to thank you all. We've been working on this kind of stuff for years. I think the senior one up here, Pastor Pope and I both got off of the ark with Noah. We've been here so long in this city. It's been a long time. You were here 33 years. I came in 91. So it's we've been around here a little while and watched all of the changes and all of the stuff, and so we're here to work with you, to work with all of you to better the city as our president has already so wisely and so eloquently given. So we're glad to be here. Thank you for this opportunity tonight, and call us if you need us for anything. We'll be here.
Thank you.
Again, thank you. There are others who are part of our organization, but at the drop of a hat, pastors have to go different places at different times. So some were scheduled to be here tonight and could not, but we did want to show up and again say thank you for this opportunity and begin to set the stage for what we're going to be doing as an organization for the people. Thank you again, and God bless you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have no proclamations tonight. Next up is citizen comments. First up is Bobby H. Grace. I know I don't have to tell you, but please state your name and address and limit it to 3 minutes.
Bobby H. Grace, 110 Northwest 8th Avenue in the great city of Dania Beach. Let me just say that I am doubly proud of these gentlemen behind me, because this is something that we've been trying to do for a very long time, and I am elated that my young mayor, Tamara James, pushed them forward so that we started with the Dania Beach Can, and I understand that they're going to be participating in a lot of community activities, and that's what we really need. We really need that in our city. So let me just say a few things. Family and Fun Day was absolutely fantastic, and we had so many children there, and we had a kickball game. Chief, will you please come? Between BSO and the City of Dania Beach Parks and Recreation and Community, where we divvied up the team with our children and our adults. We gave them 17, we took 17, and we had an additional 30 left over, so we gave them to BSO because we figured they were going to really need the help, and they did. There were some people that said that there was some cheating going on at the game, and I said I didn't see any cheating whatsoever, and I was not involved in any cheating, and I don't know where that came from, except probably from Stallings and Huff, who were just could not take it good because they lost. And each time they came into the field, there was somebody saying that we had 2-1. And the next time we had 3-1. We were up to 10-1. And then they told me that we only had 2-1. That was the game. And I said, well, I'm the senior person, so it must take a little time for me to try to figure out numbers, because it's been a while since I've been at Attucks Middle School and Attucks High School, and Robert Dunson taught me well in math, but I don't know who it was racking up the points there, but somebody was doing that. And make a long story short, we beat the pants off of them.
We got some practice to do for next year.
And they promised that they're going to come back very soon, and they're going to give us a run for our money. And that's what they're going to have to do, because they didn't get any runs. So this is our trophy. We won. I did all the bases even when they put me out, and they said, what are you doing? I said, a runner never quits. And I ran all the bases, and then I counted that as a home run. And they said, you can't do that. I go, well, somebody explained the rules to me, because that wasn't part of the rules. So I would like it for you to please pass this to Eric. Will you please come and pass it to our director, because I want you to know how it feels to lose once.
Thank you. The torch.
That's what I like. Okay. I tell you, we had an absolutely marvelous
walk
time,
of
and afterward we had lunch
The
with
walk
each
of
other, and we
shame.
fellowshiped with each other, and it was just great. And what I liked about it, after we finished everything on the park, you couldn't even tell that we had activities there, because my whole team cleaned up the park like it was when Public Works come out there. Everything was in place when we walked out of there. Now let's move to Saturday, because I really want to tell you that.
And I know you do, but we got to move along. So
Well,
I'll give you a little leeway.
Thank you.
But go ahead.
I was so proud of everybody that showed up at that function on Saturday. What I was most proud of is the residents that we did not paint their houses and we did not do beautification, that they came out and started working on their own homes while we were out there doing that. So this is really a plus for all of us. And the last thing, save the date, October 13th, breast cancer awareness at the Dania Highlight and Casino. I want to see you there. We're planning big things, and we need to support breast cancer awareness. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Barbara Ringstad. Please state your name and address, and you'll be limited to about 3 minutes.
Okay, Barbara Ringstad, 3341 Southwest 44th Street in Dania Beach. And this is my second time talking. I'm going to get good at this by the time we're done. I am here because I am objecting to the supposedly two-story townhouses they're thinking about building on our street of one-story homes. I say supposedly two-story because there's going to be rooftop terraces on all of them. If people are up on their roof, that looks like a third story to me. I've already sent letters to each one of you commissioners, and I'm just here to tell you that I'm not going away, and I'm going to fight for our neighborhood. And we have a great neighborhood, and I know we have a great bunch of people on the board here, and I know you'll all look out for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Philip Andeskavich. Did I butcher it? Okay. Please state your name and address, and you'll be limited to about 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you. My name is Philip Andeskavich. I own and live at 3301 Southwest 44th Street. I'm here to talk about the same issue that Barbara just talked about, and that is the potential building of multifamily units disguised as two-story homes, which will basically be three-story homes overlooking our properties and based on the height further down, even across from my property. To give you an idea, this piece of land is surrounded by single-family homes. I know there's other construction projects in the area, but that is the major fundamental differences. They're trying to insert multifamily units into a single-family neighborhood, and it's just a shame. We fought pretty hard to get into that house because we really liked it, and we chose Dania Beach to live in. We just couldn't see the potential that maybe there'd be, what they were planning on building next door. It definitely would have changed our mind. I think it would change a potential buyer's mind. And in no way could it raise our value, even though with short, brash conversations with the builder, using buzzwords such as luxury homes, raising home value, it's a bad deal for the residents on that street. We enjoy our little neighborhood. This is not progress. It's not good progress. Just to illustrate how intrusive this potential building could be, looking at the plans, which I'll just point out first. There's a beautiful illustration on the front. What it is not showing is my house, which should be right here. This first building is 10 feet off my property line. 10 feet is not very far. To give you an idea of what that really means is, Commissioner James, you have a... Nope, but you know what 10 feet is because you played basketball for a very long time. And to give you more perspective, the free throw line is 15 feet away. This building will be 10 feet away from my property line.
That's the size of the rim, the height.
It's also the height. Imagine standing this close, and now you have 3 stories looking up on my property. Same way for Barbara, and from that height, they can see further on. It's basically an observation deck of my life. I'm sure I'll go over 3 minutes, but...
You're coming up on it pretty quickly.
Next meeting I'll continue.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. like your wife is coming up next. so.
Sorry. Coincidentally, I wasn't here for the airplane noise, but we have a baby due in July, and I'm very saddened to hear that there could be a lot of nighttime traveling, which I've benefited from the program, but I can still wake up every time a plane flies over overnight. So just a word for that. So,
Mayor, excuse me, Mayor.
Yes. Commissioner Harris?
Philip, I talked to you after the last P&Z meeting, and I got your email today, so I'll schedule a visit with you.
Thank you.
I'll come by.
Thank you very much.
Samantha Andiscavage?
Hello, thank you for having us. I live with Philip at 3301 Southwest 44th Street. Continuing on what he said, it's definitely unappealing to have a second-story home, but like he mentioned, I don't know if we explained it really, but there's actually on the rooftop, there's going to be an observation deck. So instead of it just being 2 stories, actually it's a 3rd story, view of our home. So it's not really just the 2 stories. So aesthetically, it's not great. It feels invasive. It definitely does not increase the value of our home. No one's going to want that if we ever decide to sell our home. But also, we were kind of excited that we were on a dead-end street and it was very quiet. And, it's not much traffic going in and out. And now we're going to have like 18 cars, whereas maybe I thought that if someone moved in, there would be like 4 at the most. Say they divided it up into a couple different homes. And now there's going to be 18 cars right next to us going in and out. So not excited about that prospect, going in and out. Another thing that someone had mentioned at the zoning meeting that we attended last time is the potential for water runoff, because with these kind of things, they tend to raise the land, and we already have standing water problems in our front yard. And we're definitely worried that the runoff into the streets and into our yard might directly affect us. And then there are some people that were not able to be here tonight that are very concerned about being able to get past this location to their own home. Since it is a dead-end street, they cannot. Like with another property down the street, they closed the street down multiple times to work on it, and I don't know how they would do that with people that live on a dead-end street. And also they were worried about emergency situations and being able to access. So that's what I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner James?
Yes, I just wanted to know, has the developer reached out to any of you all and set up community meetings to hear? He reached out to you? I mean, have there been a community effort?
I've had experiences with them also.
Okay, so no.
But not properly reaching out, no, just
Yep.
sees me in my yard next door.
If you're going to respond, you have to come up.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So,
I didn't realize that.
okay. Kathy David? Please state your name and address, and we'll be limited to about 3 minutes.
Kathy David, 4381 Southwest 34th Lane. I'm here to talk about the townhomes because I'm in the cul-de-sac that's going to have to drive by the probably 27 more cars that are going to be coming in and out. And we are single-family homes all the way around, and in cul-de-sac it's quiet. Now, whoever, I think after we went to the P&Z board, they have counters. They're counting in and out. And it's all fine, but I just can't imagine 2 stories and then a sun deck. And then like 4 cars at each one, 27 cars. It just seems crazy to me. We're not used to that. I know progress, I know that. A friend of mine he said that he thought that they could only put 5, but we're checking this out. Everybody's working on this, and there'll be a bunch of us at the next P&Z board, and we'll be back here again. I just wanted to ask for your help in this matter. And there was something else, but I forgot it now, but thank you.
Thank you. I said thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Maria DeVito?
Hello, everyone. I'm
Will you
Maria
please-
DeVito. I live at 1951 Atlantic Shores Boulevard in Hallandale Beach, Florida. I've written an email to the vice mayor and to the city manager regarding the Dania Beach Grill. And I was at the last meeting, and Anna Garcia said I should come to this meeting, so here I am. I was wondering if there's been any decision made regarding whether you're going to repair it, which I doubt, or you're going to tear it down and rebuild. Has there been a decision?
Manager?
We have in the next commission meeting, Ms. DeVito, an update that we will be making in regards to all our findings. The second report that just came in last week has been posted online, and we'll be meeting individually with all the elected officials. So at the June 11th meeting, we'll be
my
giving...
birthday.
Oh, your birthday. Happy birthday in advance.
June 11th.
Yes. That's when we'll be giving you all the latest updates and
I
get
don't know
direction
if
from
I'll make that.
the commission.
Okay, so I'll have to just look online, right?
But you can come back to the next meeting, June 11th.
It'll be my birthday, though.
Okay.
I won't be.
It is televised, and they do tape it, so you should be able to.
I know,
to
I
review
will
it.
look at it, thank you. And I miss it. Yesterday, I really missed it. Anyway, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is public safety reports.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners.
Good evening.
I recently spoke about the increase we've seen in skimming devices on gas pumps throughout the city. Our crime prevention unit's working together with the Division of Consumer Services in order to inspect every gas station in Dania Beach for these skimming devices. So it's a nice little task. It'll probably take a couple weeks to prepare, but I'll report back on it on how many are found. If you look in the back, you see this crew. It kind of got smaller because there was another call they had to go to. They were here last year when the sheriff awarded them with the Department of Law Enforcement Unit of the Year for the whole agency. Last week, I attended the Broward County PBA Officer of the Year Awards, where our Dania Beach BSO Detective Matt Goodnow, raise your hand, he was honored there for being the Deputy of the Year from the PBA. And I'd like to read real quick what they read, the MC read at the ceremony. It was really nice. Throughout 2018, Broward Sheriff's Office Detective Matt Goodnow performed above and beyond his normal assigned duties by continuing his tireless work investigating and removing dangerous gang members from Broward County communities. Through his relentless efforts and with the assistance of the Dania Beach CST detectives, Detective Goodnow was able to build solid criminal cases against dangerous individuals and ultimately remove them from the streets of Broward County. Working with the BSO gang unit and several federal agencies, Detective Goodnow planned, coordinated, and supervised numerous aspects of the investigation. In addition to conducting this long-term joint gang investigation, Detective Goodnow has simultaneously maintained the highest commitment to service as he continued to address his daily duties as a narcotics canine handler, as well as working towards his master's degree in public administration from Nova Southeastern. Detective Goodnow is a consummate professional who, without wanting to be recognized or fanfare, gives back to the community by feeding the homeless and distributing toys and athletic equipment to the less fortunate during the holidays. His professionalism, unselfishness, and dedication to service is why he is the 2018 Broward County PBA Deputy of the Year from the Broward Sheriff's Office. So, thanks for everything. That completes my report.
Is he here? Is he? Okay, just checking. Okay. Yeah, we should go take a picture. I think we should take a picture. So.
I get that a lot.
Huh?
No. I was home writing a paper. Thank you, Mayor.
Chief Holness?
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commission, City Manager, Deputy Chief Gregory Holness from the Broward Sheriff's Office. Sorry, I was texting to get my kickball team together. I just want to put it for the record that fire does beat police every once in a while. So I'm waiting for the. I'll be more than happy to join in the festivities, Ms. Grace. So next time, just make sure I'm there. We're ready? Okay, I'm ready with you. Not much to report other than that, June 1st is coming around the corner, and I know the manager's going to bring up about the upcoming June 1st Hurricane Preparedness Expo here at Dania Beach. I will be here. Just to remind everyone, what I find a little distressing is that NOAA said it's going to be a near normal hurricane season. I don't think any hurricane season should be near normal, should always be less than normal in my book, but it only takes one, and it's never too late to prepare. So if anybody hasn't been out there getting their stuff together, as far as the residents, please stop by the booth. There's going to be a lot of information that's going to be passed out, and they could certainly gain some insights from some of the folks that's going to be presenting there. And that's all I have this evening.
Thank you. Next item is consent agenda. Are there any polls?
I'll need to read the ordinances.
Okay. Commissioner James?
I have 7.3, 7.6, and 7.7.
Commissioner Harris?
7.8 and 7.9.
Vice Mayor?
I have, sorry, I didn't hear what everyone else said. 7.7 and 7.12.
Okay. Do we have a motion with regard to the rest of the consent agenda?
I make a motion to approve all except for 7.3, 7.6, 7.7, 7.4.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm going to pull 7.4
Okay.
also.
7.3, 7.4, 7.6, 7.7, 7.8, 7.9, 7.12.
And 11, which I'll read.
And 11.
And
Sorry.
11.
Thank you.
All of
What's
them.
left, whatever's left. I'm not sure anything's
And
left.
12.
Okay, the ones that are staying are 1, 2, 5, 10, and that's it.
Okay, motion?
And Commissioner James made a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And anyone opposed?
Yes.
Commissioner Brandon Marty's opposed? Yes?
Might as well.
Okay. Okay.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Dania Beach, Florida, directing the release of the restriction of funds previously designated for certain costs associated with the impact of the redeveloped property formerly known as the Dania Highland, now Dania Beach Casino, subject to certain conditions, providing for conflicts, further providing for an effective date.
Thanks, Tom. I wanted to know what these certain conditions were and why we need to lift the restriction on it. And furthermore, I'll wait till that question is answered.
Is who,
Nikki?
I'm not sure
please.
who.
Our
Okay.
finance director is coming up to the podium to give us the details.
Nikki Satterfield, Finance Director. Okay, in 2007, when the parimutuel first went into play, the City Commission, at that point in time, adopted a resolution to basically restrict the funds that were going to be coming in from the operations of that, our city portion of that, for a period of 5 years, from the date that we actually started receiving the revenue, which actually really didn't start happening until 2014 due to the fact that it was under construction and, things like that started coming in. That 5-year period is now up. The idea behind that at the time was that they wanted to go ahead and restrict those funds until such time as they really saw what the impacts would be from the casino being there. It was intended to be used for traffic control, emergency response, police, fire, public safety, whatever impacts might come out of that. That 5-year period is now up. We had utilized a portion of that money already, which was voted by the prior commission, to fund a couple of deputies. The remaining funds we talked about in September of last year during the budget process, that once this restriction was due to expire in May, the commission at the time said bring it back forth at mid-year, which is what we're doing, to release the rest of the restriction on the funds, and we were going to use that money to fund the fire chief at mid-year, which is what's being brought forward tonight. The restriction of the funds has to be done, and then the actual, another agenda item is before you, which is to renew the actual BSO fire rescue contract, which also includes the addition of the fire chief for mid-year.
So again, my question is, why do we have to?
Because the resolution that was adopted in 2007 said that the only way to reverse this is that it has to be done by commission approval and it has to be done by 4/5 vote.
Okay, so why do we have to reverse it? Is it an option to not reverse this? I don't.
You can leave it restricted if you want to.
What are the benefits or?
Well, leaving it restricted, what that's going to do is every time you want to use the funds moving forward, what this is going to allow us to do is just go ahead and keep the money that's coming in. We will now continue to budget. It will go into our general operating budget, which we've already identified as going for public safety. We've already pretty much allocated everything that's coming in. Once we do this for the fire chief and the 2 police officers, it's basically just going to free up the funding. We won't have to keep going through this motion every year.
But we do this every year?
Well, what you have to do right now in order to use any of the funds is you have to vote on it every single time. Well, we've already said we're going to go ahead and use a portion of it for police. Now we're going to say we're going to use it for fire. There really isn't going to be any excess revenue coming in.
What? Okay.
So it's more of a bookkeeping.
It was both police and fire on that resolution.
Well, it was actually, it's for increased police and fire protection, emergency responses, traffic control, or traffic calming measures. It's whatever of those areas was defined by the city commission when those impacts came up.
Right.
So we already allocated a portion of it, the commission did, for the deputies. Now the rest of the allocation is going to be freed up for the fire chief.
Is it a problem keeping it restricted so we can make sure that certain funds are being dedicated to public safety?
There's not a problem in doing it. It's just that we're really pretty much everything that's coming in is already being allocated out. So to restrict it really doesn't, it's more of a bookkeeping issue for us. It's really not something that's going to change either way.
Okay.
Do we have a motion?
Is other comment?
Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Brandimari.
A little refresher course on this. When the casino decided to come here, there were a lot of residents against the casino, if some of you remember at that time. And the biggest issue that they were against it for was safety. They thought that it was going to bring a lot of crime to our area, which it did. It's unfounded. It didn't happen. So what happened was the income was restricted at that time due to that fear. The casino would bring crime. Like I said, the commission at that time restricted the money to one word, safety, anything that really had to do with safety. However, the commission has the right to either restrict, and they have the right to change it. It takes 3 votes. No, I don't think it's 4 votes. Is it 4
This,
votes?
one in
Right, so it's
particular.
a
Hold on,
4/5
hold
of a commission to do it. But they do have the right, after discussion, to do it either way, if I'm incorrect. But I think at the time, though, Nikki, I don't remember, did we also put on an extra police officer after we did that?
Those were done in 2018.
2018.
Yeah.
Wow, did we go slow?
I mean, the downside to not releasing the restriction is that this resolution specifically identifies the fact that you really need to be using these funds for impacts directly related to the casino being put in. So by freeing it up, you can use it for public safety citywide, not just in that particular
Right.
area.
Thank you.
Do we have a motion?
I have a motion to approve.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Brandimart?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner James?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Odman?
Yes.
Mayor Llewellyn?
Yes.
Carries 5-0.
7-4, resolution of the City Commission of the City of Dania Beach, Florida, amending charges established for the mausoleum spaces and entombment cemetery plots, interment costs, and other cemetery services at Memorial Park and West Lawn cemeteries by providing certain discounts for city employees for their immediate family members, providing for conflicts, further providing for an effective date.
I pulled this because I had some concerns legally about this and whether or not there could be some legal implications with doing this. I did speak to our city attorney about it. I also spoke to our labor attorney about it, who did tell me that there are some serious discrimination concerns involving this, that there could also be issues involving unions and negotiations with unions, and he basically said that we should not do this. However, what I would like to see us maybe do is maybe we could have finance take a look at other ways that we might be able to do some discounts, maybe look at, I know there's already a significant discount for residents, whether they're city employees or not, and maybe there might be a way to do a different way of, or additional ways of discounting for residents themselves. So, but my primary concern were the legal issues, and that was confirmed for me when I spoke with Jim about it earlier today.
Again, this came to me, as the mayor brought it to me through the Labor Council, but I haven't been able to speak to the Labor Council myself, so I'd like to have him give an explanation to the commission what he thinks the issues are, if they're that serious, and then we'll deal with it, but I don't have them in front of me tonight. So I would recommend we just postpone this to the next meeting so we have an answer. In the meantime, if there's a concern about it now, you could consider other options, but if you want to bring it back, let me bring it back to you at the 11th meeting, June 11th.
Commissioner James?
Yes. When were these concerns? I don't know. When did they appear from the Labor Council?
Well, my concerns were raised when I looked at the agenda, and I prepared, so I contacted Labor Council, and I spoke with him about it today.
Could you tell us anything that they said?
Yeah, specifically, he said there's a concern that you, especially dealing with unions, because the unions are negotiating, and you will have people that are in the unions who are residents and non-residents, and you're not going to be able to confer a benefit on on a resident that's not the same benefit on a non-resident. And the other issue is that you could potentially have lawsuits as a result of this if somebody feels that they're not receiving the same benefits.
So how do we do it with our to the city manager? How do we do it with Parks and Recreation when we give a discount for space? I mean, how does if we have a resident or an employee that is a resident here and they go have a wedding reception at IT Parker Center, how is that any different?
I think what you're looking at is given a benefit, and I'm just moving forward. I don't know what has been done in the past, but when you give a benefit to a resident versus a non-resident, that's doable. But when you give a benefit to a city employee who has family in the city versus a city employee that doesn't have family in the city, that's when you can get into a union dispute, because you're giving a certain benefit to a certain group of individuals, but not to another. So it's not like the union, everybody in the union can get it. It's something that we would have to negotiate.
So from the time that this was brought forward by myself, when did all of this other stuff, did you know about any of these concerns or things with the union prior till today that I guess we all could have known about? Because this has been a while since this was first brought forth, and this is the first I'm hearing about these concerns and conversations with the labor attorney regarding this matter.
Well, as I said,
I'm just asking the city manager what she
we go
knew.
through the chair. so-
Okay, city manager.
City manager.
I had not looked at this item. I was not working on this item when all you guys call me in regards to the different items and the different concerns. When the mayor called today, actually when she came today, she brought it to my attention. And as an attorney, I asked her to speak to our city attorney or our labor council. So this afternoon was when our labor council called the mayor, called back and said, I have concerns over this. And I asked the mayor that she should talk to our city attorney, and city attorney basically communicated to the mayor. I haven't even discussed this with the city attorney yet.
Okay, I would like to sit down with everyone involved, labor attorney, city attorney, AFSCME, all of those people to make sure that we come together for a solution that can benefit our employees during a time of bereavement, because I definitely think that shows a good face and good faith with us that we are trying to take care of our employees and provide a benefit to them.
I would like to, again, suggest that finance take a look at the actual, do an analysis basically of the whole program and see if there's some way that we can add to the benefit for the residents. And then this way that may resolve some of the issues, some of the concerns that you have. Commissioner Harris? Oh, no, he's lit. Okay. Commissioner Brandamari?
Yeah, maybe this would have been a good time to put it into the union contract, something.
But then you're going to end up, well, there's concerns with that as well.
But I can see what the point is you brought up. You're absolutely right on the fact that we'll get sued.
Well, and you also, if you go through the unions, then you're talking about residents and non-residents both having a certain benefit. And it's not just the unions. There are other aspects of it as well, because, and a labor attorney can explain it. I'm sure he'll be happy to come and explain it.
No, I understand what you're
or send
saying.
out a memo to us or whatever he needs to do. But
right.
I mean, it's, the concern is that you're conferring a benefit on a specific group of people and not all of the employees. And there's potential there for liability. And that's what the concern is overall.
If I may, through the chair.
Yes.
Legal has their role in this process, and the administration and finance has their role in this process as well. I'd look at things that are not legally related, working with my staff that are financially and operations related. When it came to this, I missed it, but you would want me not to focus on things that are related to legal. And basically, when the mayor brought it to my attention, it made sense only because we're not offering this to all employees. We're just offering this to employees who have family that live in the city.
Commissioner James?
Yeah, I'm just going to make a motion that we withdraw it until we have further discussion on what it needs to be.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed?
7.6, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Dania Beach, Florida, authorizing the proper city officials to execute a Fifth Amendment to the agreement existing between the City of Dania Beach and the Broward Sheriff's Office relating to a renewal of the agreement and a change to the fire rescue staffing structure to add a district fire chief. Providing for conflicts, further providing for an effective date.
Yes. In light of conversations that we've been having, and I would like the fire chief to come up because I have a few questions for him regarding this. In light of the conversations that we've been having of a growing community, a growing city, and not having the adequate service that we desperately need here, and that has resulted in more than one death in the past months because both neighbors have come to us and told us about lack of response time and lack of, I don't know, units and the fire chief. And so I not only want to support this district fire chief, I would like to ask how could we expedite the process on adding a unit, which would be the one that is responding to these calls, and the importance of that, or what you feel the importance of that, and how that could help us. And I know that we could possibly wait until October 1, but how many more situations are we going to have from now until October 1 before we start doing something today?
Mayor and Commission. Yes, I mean, I've been up here and talked about those incidents. Tragic, absolutely. The predictability versus probability question, I've always used with caution. I can't predict the calls, but I can tell you, based on the concurrency of the calls, which is more in my line of probabilities, that you're in the high area. You're as far as demand for service. So, and I think I've talked about the 52%. You're, for every other call that drops and two are busy, the third call coming in is going to have a delayed response time. The main thing in addressing these issues is which comes first. Does a district chief come first, or does a unit come first? Obviously, I'm always going to side with the unit, but applying a strong and methodological approach to it is our greatest chance of success. So how we do that is totally upon the city executive staff. How do we look at it? Because we're talking millions of dollars. So in order to facilitate that, how do we do that in a systematic approach? I'm all for having an additional unit. Do you need it? Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And with as we migrate into Dania Point, the end of the year, the TCOs are going to be handed out. At that point, we see an uptick in calls already. We can't predict it, but the probabilities exist right now, as it stands right now, in order to do that. Yes, we do need it. In fact, the city manager directed us to take a look and start the discussions with Hollywood. We did. Chief Busenbarek did. Fortunately, Chief Busenbarek used to be the fire chief in Hollywood at the time, and as I said, it was a tipping point. We do have to add. We have to be able to survive on our own in order to have some sort of agreement with the city of Hollywood in order to do that sharing, which is that is the most ideal way to do it, and it basically mimics the closest unit response, which gives us that leading edge.
Would an extra unit help you all to meet that criteria?
Absolutely.
And how much would that cost from June 1st to September 30th? I guess Nikki could come back, or if you have it.
Very good. That's a good one. Speaking of three-person unit, so you're talking about a mid-year. So you're talking about 1.5 million. That's salaries only, and I'm using approximate figures. I just want to clarify that I'm using approximate figures. It's 1.1 million.
1.1.
1.1
without the benefits.
Yeah.
Okay.
Carried a 1. I should have done this by.
Okay. I would like to ask this commission for consideration to not only approve a district fire chief, but to also, in this mid-year assessment that we're going through, to approve a med unit as well. I know that Nikki's probably going crazy, and that's fine. I'd asked about a week or so ago about how much we had in our restricted and unrestricted reserves. And I do know that we have an adequate amount, enough to still be comfortable with best practice in having this now, because regardless if we have it now or we wait until October 1, it's still going to be needed. It's something that is still going to be a great investment for our public safety, for the quality of service that they receive, and 1 minute can equal one life. So I don't want to play around with this issue, investment.
I'd like to ask Nikki to come up here, please. How much is there?
Okay. Nikki Satterfield, Finance Director. Having an adequate amount of reserves is not really the issue here. The issue here is that you are looking to go to reserves for an ongoing operating cost that we cannot sustain in the following year. This is kind of include to what I was going to do as a quick presentation at the next meeting in June to give you kind of a peek of where the values are for this year. We did recently receive on Friday the assessed values for June 1st. The city increased 4.7% this year, which is really only going to garner probably another $915,000 in revenue this year for the city of Dania Beach. So that money in itself is already being consumed in the normal budget process, just between the overall general increase that we have that's going to be coming from just BSO fire alone this year is going to be $600,000 increase. We've got our comp and class, which is already over $200,000 that we're going to do. So the money that we're already getting in this year on tax revenue is already pretty much been accounted for. So if you're going to look to go to the reserves for over $1 million here just for a portion of the year, you're talking at least $2 million for next year. The city cannot sustain that.
Well, not coming out of my idea was not for it to come out of the reserves every year, just until.
Understandable, but the problem is we don't foreseeably know what next year's revenues are going to be. The $915,000 we're getting already for this year in October coming up, it's pretty much already allocated out for just normal operating expenses that we're going to be facing just through the general contract, as well as the comp and class, which we've talked about. We still have BSO police that we have to take a look at what their increases are for this year. So the money we're already getting in is already pretty much going to be spent. So for us to go ahead and do what you're asking is going to have to come from reserve. There's nowhere else for it to come from. And we don't know what next year's revenues are going to be for 2020 yet. So the revenues that came in for this year, on the addition deletion file I received this morning, I took a quick peek, did include 3 of the new hotels. It included one of the large warehouse locations, included the Aldi. It also included about $60 million from Dania Point. That in itself is what garnered pretty much the majority of the increase in revenue this year. I have no doubt we'll have more next year, and probably 2021 is probably when you're really going to see the big revenue coming in. But for the city to try to fund this kind of a project without looking at the other options to either potentially phase it in, I don't think would be a prudent thing to do, because we're not really going to know when those revenues are going to drop. And I know I sound like a broken record, because every year I come up and I say don't spend it till we have it. But really, really there, we're almost close, but we all thought we were going to get more in this year. It didn't quite come to fruition yet. It's all about the timing of when those things come online. So I do caution that we probably should hold off on this and look at all of our options, and then maybe look at a phased approach if that's something we can afford to do.
What percentage do we have in our general unrestricted that we put aside for our reserves? Like, what percentage do we put aside for reserves?
25%.
And that's and
that was the goal that the commission
way before we got here.
Yeah, well, the GFOA recommends that you have at least 3 months of operating
so
put aside.
What is 3 months?
Roughly about 14 million.
Okay.
It fluctuates every year.
Okay, so I guess what I'm saying is, if we didn't operate at 25%, which is the most conservative, because I looked up numbers as well, and it said anywhere between, I want to say it said 14% and 25%. Maybe that number is a little low at 14%, but 25% was like the max. If we didn't operate to where we are saving 25% of it, that frees up money annually.
It
Does-
frees, no, it does not. It doesn't free up operating. All it does is free up reserves, which reserves really should be used for your one-time expenditures.
Okay.
So what you're asking is to basically use your reserves ahead of time in anticipation of revenue that may or may not come in the future.
That's not what I'm asking.
Well, that's kind of the result. If you're going to go ahead and free up more money, your reserves to 15%, you may free up, say you free up another, these are rough numbers, doing the math in my head. Say you freed up another $5 million, and you're wanting to fund another rescue. You're talking about staffing, operating, trucks, everything else. You're going to fund that off of your reserves for a couple of years in anticipation that in a couple of years, you're going to have enough operating revenue to come in to sustain that moving forward. That's not something we would ever recommend doing.
So if you go from 25% to 20%, just say, so you now have only 20% in your reserves, can that money not be used in our general fund in order to do
Only for
everything else?
capital. When you have to remember, all your ongoing revenue coming in is what you're using for your ongoing expenses coming out. The reserves are there because over the years we've been accumulating and saving over, one another. So it's basically your savings account. But you don't ever really use your savings account for what your next year's operating expenses are going to be.
You can cut down your savings account and put it into your checking account and use those.
You can, but then how are you going to pay for it the following year? That's the problem. You can pay for it the first year, but the second year, if you don't have enough money coming in, you're going to have to go back to your savings account and you're going to have to pull back some more money.
No, I understand that part of
Yeah.
it. I'll let everyone else ask questions. I hear buttons going off.
Actually, the city manager asked.
I wanted to jump in because we all totally support public safety.
Absolutely.
That's number one, and I'll say that here and I'll say that everywhere. We're going into the steps of the budget workshops that we're going to be meeting one-on-one with every single one of you guys, and then we're going to have our public budget workshops and a budget hearings. What is very concerning is we're optimistic about the future, without a doubt, but this money's coming in gradually. The monies that are coming in for next year, based on the 4% and change that we received that I sent to you guys late this afternoon, because Nikki, as you know, was in bereavement leave. The money that we're getting next year, the extra money, is $900,000. Out of that $900,000, $625,000 is already gone, and that is for BSO fire. Those are the expenditure that we must spend via the union contract. In addition to that, we have the comp and class. In addition to that, our operations, your priorities that you all would like to see in next fiscal year. I think it might be best to be able to take those steps during the budget workshop to be able to look at this holistically. I'm just concerned to like commit to $1.1 million. And I just wanted to ask, if we were to approve this, would we be ready to go June 1st with 3 new guys in a truck?
He said it would take a month.
Or how long would that take?
Actually, this is where the misnomer comes up. It's actually 13 personnel, full-time equivalents. It's 3 positions, and then use the staffing factor, it ends up rounding up to being 13 sworn full-time equivalents to do it. We would use existing folks, but we still have to backfill those new positions. And ramping them up, we couldn't get it done overnight. It'll take a month or so.
Yeah, my concern is to make the decision right here, right now, of over $1 million in expenditures without even looking at what the proposed budget for police is, what the proposed budget is for any of the departments yet. So we would do whatever you want us to do, but I'm very concerned that on the fly here, we will commit to this immediately of these 13 new positions with everything else that we haven't seen yet.
Commissioner Brandon
Okay. It amazes me through to the city manager if you really do feel that way about this and all this money, then even before we started to find out how much money we have to work with in a budget, why are you asking for all of these new employees? Why? We should be, these here things that were pulled tonight, why I said no, it's all stuff that should be discussed during our budget. How can we plan money we don't even know we got yet? So even on your position, I don't understand how you could put on agendas wanting an assistant to this assistant, an assistant to that. That doesn't fly with me at all. They belong on the budget meetings, not here during a commission meeting.
This is something that I totally agree with you. This is
Thanks.
something that
And
was
withdraw all of them.
there's something that was communicated with me that was a need in the clerk's office. We don't have a problem tabling one position, as that one part-time position.
All of them.
Commissioner James?
Yes, I guess that's what, part of that is my question as well. We're in $225,000 and allocated it to a fire chief, and then we have all of these other things of the item that I pulled that have budgetary impacts, and we haven't looked at our budget holistically, but we're being asked to approve other positions, and they aren't $1.2 million each, but they all do add up. We haven't had a chance to look at how that affects our budget in whole. We didn't have a chance to look at how the district fire chief affects our budget in whole with other fire officers that may be needed. And so if we're going to table everything until budget time, because I definitely have issues with a lot of the other positions, I would feel like we need to table those things until budget time as well. I just don't, I don't know how we could address certain things and then things that are kind of the equivalent when we're looking at it from a budgetary perspective, and we have 5 positions or however many in here at mid-year looking to be funded immediately, and I don't think any of these are immediate needs. A lot of these, I don't think they are immediate needs. And so if we're going to do things at mid-year, I think we all should be able to bring forth what we feel are priorities, especially in light of having deaths in response to response time. I just don't see how it's equal.
Commissioner Brandon Chief, well, actually, let me start with Nikki. We already budgeted for, I believe, for a mid-year adjustment for the fire chief, correct?
That's on this resolution, that this is the resolution you just previously passed, which freed up the
Right.
money from the parimutuel operations, was what was the intent to fund for the fire chief, yes.
Okay,
And
and
that's what we had talked about last September.
Right, and that was, we were basically having to go through other resources in order to get the funds to pay for that.
Correct.
Correct.
We had to free up that money so we could pay for it.
Okay. Chief Holness, let me ask you a question. Obviously, I know we need another unit. It's something I have discussed with the firefighters. I've discussed with you. I know we need another unit. I know we need more personnel. Absolutely agree with that. I don't think anybody here disagrees with that. Are you actively working with Hollywood to talk to them about ways to do some concurrent coverage?
Yes, they're in a state of flux right now, and Chief Busenberg can pretty much talk on that a little bit. But their fire chief has retired, and they have an interim fire chief right now, and nobody's going to make that commitment based on all the factors we had discussed over the last couple of meetings. But I just want to stress something before I turn it over to Eric. What's missing right now is the fact that there is no direct liaison between the city, executive staff, and BSO on critical issues that are popping up. In fact, in addition to that, we have June 1st coming up, emergency management coordinator. You don't have that in place to handle that. You don't have a community liaison between that and the community itself, the homeowners associations, all of the things that bubble up to the top that I've been here, that would normally be handled by a district chief. Speaking as a past district chief, Those are very complex matters that need a full-time coordination. It's not, I answer a phone call and then I leave it alone. It's, I've got to go make a follow-up phone call. I've got to check. I've got to double check, triple check. In addition, ISO is coming up. You're coming up for renewal in November. And right now you're in ISO 1. If you don't have all your ducks in line as far as, you know, getting all the information, the training records, the hydrant information, the water supply information, all that, you stand to lose in that sense from an ISO rating of 1 to possibly a 2. So, you know, because it was just a small fraction of what the gains were. And you're going to need somebody as you move forward in a systematic approach towards that unit that we all agree that needs to happen. You need to have somebody to analyze that data. I've been doing it, but I'm just part-time in this position. I can give you what I can give you, but you know, staff meetings are absent of a liaison from the fire side to properly advise. So I just wanted to point those things out. You know, these are some of the responsibilities that a district chief would be responsible for, you know, 5 to 7 days a week, you know, making those phone calls at 2 o'clock in the morning, letting the city manager know that something occurred in the city. If, you know, the same calls that the police captain makes, the district fire chief would be also doing. So I'll let Chief Busenberg kind of fill you in on the Hollywood, because he's been more integral part with that.
Hello, good evening. Eric Busenberg. Yes, one of the when the City of Hollywood decided to look at the automatic gate agreement at the time was the fact that both cities at the time needed additional personnel and units. City of Hollywood actually went ahead and increased their staffing level. Unfortunately, at the time, Dania Beach didn't keep up with that. So one of the issues, not the only one, was the City of Hollywood really didn't want to be the giver without getting some sort of response. But as the chief said, I spoke to the interim deputy or interim fire chief last week. Unfortunately, that would be a major decision, and an interim chief is not going to give that. Now, they should be coming up with a chief relatively soon, so we can absolutely, you know, start those conversations again. But I would venture to say that would be still one of the concerns that, you know, we raised our our units.
Yeah, and so it's an uneven balance there. But what, and I know, just 1 second. Let me, whichever of you can answer this. Would a fire chief, a full-time fire chief, be somebody who could not only work with Hollywood on a regular basis, but also be somebody who could look at other options, maybe ways to address some of the deficiencies that are going on currently?
Yes. Your district chief would do all those.
Okay.
Your district chief would be integral with city staff during budget preparations as much as they would want to include that individual. Surrounding agencies, they are the front line on any type of incident where there's a concern from the citizens. They are that immediate person on the ground the next day or that night coming out and starting to address those issues. They feed all that information up. Obviously, they are approved by the fire chief, but that is exactly what you would get.
So, I mean, there might be potential. I think you even last time at the last meeting that if we could look at some ways to maybe move some, maybe address some of the bigger issues that are going on. I know we had an issue. The death wasn't necessarily as a result of the delay, but the delay was significant regardless of that situation over at the estates. And I know you said that that's something you might be able to address whether it was you or whether you have a full-time person there that would be able to handle that. Is that correct?
That is correct, and I've been in contact from there, and I'll be there as much as I humanly can be. But Nikki knows. She chases me down for information all the time, and I'm torn between, especially in the budget season. I've got 8 other contract cities that are requiring information. So I do prioritize Dania.
Right.
Did I say that? on record. But, you know, as much as possible, I try to get the information there. It's a boulder that's moving uphill. It can be best done with a team, and I think the team, the spare of the team is that district chief. To get to that extra unit, you're going to need that person. You know, that person's going to be the facilitator to assist the city manager, the finance director, and the commission in making those plans work.
Thank you. City Manager?
Yes, I just want to say, to put it on the record, that within week 2 that I started as your manager, I met with Chief Holness, Chief Busenberg, and Chief Fernandez, which is the Broward Chief of Fire. And we discussed what would be the #1 priority. And unanimously, all 3 of them said to me, we need to make sure that we put the quarterback in place. So this way we can work with Hollywood, this way we can work with the budget, this way we can really look at everything that we need globally to be able to make the decisions that are in the best interest for the people of Dania Beach. So that's why this is coming here. I was also told that it went through the entire budget process, and that it even went through the first reading of the budget hearing, and then on the second reading, it was pulled out. So that's why I'm bringing this forward. And the other position that we're bringing that supports the manager and the commission and the clerk is a part-time position, a little bit over $20,000. So I just wanted to make that clear. But what concerns me is I know that we can manage a $20,000 position, and I know exactly where the funds are going to come from the district chief. My concern is I don't know where, $1.2 million, $1.3 million are going to come from at this moment. That doesn't mean that we wouldn't support it, but I believe that we should go through the budget process. And if you want to be able to use this part-time position and take a look at it in the budget process, we have no problems with that. We always want to make decisions. The decisions that we bring forward is because we've been taking a look at where the monies are coming from. So that's where we're at.
Commissioner James?
Yes, I guess so we can wrap this up. It kind of seems like when you hear the numbers that, we're not getting enough revenue, I'm trying to figure out how many years is it going to be before we can fund another med unit. I think we definitely need to, if this is going to wait to the budget process, we need to look at all of our contracts that we have, that we are outsourcing and using third-party contractors, because some of those contracts are almost $500,000. We can find ways to make this work. I know that we are a very smart staff here, and we are spending money on contracts when we could be spending that money on employees or temp agencies or outside services for this and that. You can look at every single department and look at where we are spending these monies. But I think that if this is not addressed, at least at budget, that we are doing our residents a disservice in providing them quality service. And we all, or most of us are residents here at Dania Beach. And that could be a time where